Well, this is the first of these weekly videos that I've been doing this year. And 2014 is off to kind of a decent start. The House certainly sent over a very important bill, the DREAM Act. First day of business on Monday. They didn't waste any time. They sent over the DREAM Act, passed it by 70 some odd votes out of 99. So pretty clear bipartisan majority. And once again, the Senate Republicans have an opportunity to screw it up, which is what they have often done. Several groups have been in to talk to me about this. They don't need to twist my arm. I'm already there. I'm a yes vote. But it's the nature of the people and the intensity of their passion for this bill that makes it clear. Groups that have numbers of Hispanic members certainly are obviously in the forefront. The Council on American Islamic Relations is also in the forefront of this, and they came to talk to me yesterday. For any person whose family comes here, typically with children, they don't come here and leave their country just for the hell of it, and they don't do it for economic reasons alone. They do it typically because they're under serious pressure. People don't leave their home country. How would you like to leave your home country, right? Unless there's some major force making you do it. And sometimes they bring with them kids who are not legal residents. Are we going to say to those kids, well, because you were brought here by people fleeing economic or political chaos, and you were brought here as a kid, you didn't do it yourself, you had to come with your parents, we're going to cut you off from assistance to higher education? We don't do that for lower education, only because our state constitution says it's the paramount duty of the state to make ample provision for all children within its borders, and without reference to whether they're residents, legal residents or not. But once they're over 18 and they're, or at least out of the school system and into college, we do make that distinction so far. This would change that and make sure that we don't make a distinction based on legalities over which a child has no control, whether he came to this country as a legal resident as a kid. And the attitude is the same one that motivated our state constitution. Kids don't have the say about whether they're legal residents or not. It's their parents who do, and we shouldn't be visiting the sins of the parents, so to speak, upon the kids. Anyway, enough of that. Another item that's been actively lobbied around here, and I want to see some improvement, is the funding that we provide for the Housing Trust Fund. The Housing Trust Fund is available to developers of low-income housing, along with private money and sources, other sources, to build more and more housing that's available to low-income people particularly, whether it's Section 8 or whether it's smaller apartments and even full single-family houses, available to people to either rent or, under a particular program, to purchase, low-income people who have not previously purchased a home. Housing Trust Fund is a revolving fund. Monies that are borrowed from it are paid back into it, and so it keeps its own amount. We put the money in. When I came here in 1997, the amount of money in the Housing Trust Fund was totally inadequate. It was $38 million. Now, mind you, these are 1997 dollars. Over the years, particularly with the pressure from the House Speaker, who I think is on the right track here, we've increased that number. It increased to 78 million. It finally hit 100 million, I think, in about 02, 03. It was 200 million briefly for a couple of years when we had the money. All right, that was before the economic crash. It's now to 51.5. That's inadequate. The problem is that we don't have the money to put into it because of our revenues going down. Our revenues, thank you, Mr. Iman, are now highly reduced, and the ones that we do have, 52% come from the retail sales tax, which, as you know, since we're in a recession, people aren't buying things. Retail sales tax doesn't bring in that much revenue. The amount that we can bond out depends on that revenue, and it's gone down. But we're still not using all of it that's available And so we can slightly increase this 51.5 million to something in the nature of 60, 70 constitutionally. There's a constitutional requirement here. I want to do it, but I know the answer. All right, we can bond the money, but when we put money out in bonds, it's 30-year bonds, and we're really saying the children born today, when they're 30 years old and have been taxpayers for 12 years, they're going to be paying us. Yes, that's true. And in most things, I don't like the idea of just punting down to the kids, putting the burden on the kids. But housing is a long-term capital thing. It will be there when they're 30 years old. And so that's fair to ask the kids for their tax money to be part of the revenue, along with our own, in the near years, that pays for these bonds. So I would like to see us increase the amount that we can up to the constitutional limit. Third thing, and last, that's been the subject of a lot of lobbying, has to do with reproductive choice. We shouldn't be arguing about this in the year of our Lord 2014, but we are. It seems like, you think you put this to rest, and it ain't. It's like zombies. This issue comes up every year. Planned Parenthood deserves to be funded as a community medical clinic, and just like any other, it performs a wide range, actually, of medical procedures for women. Abortion is one of them. It's not the only one. It's not even a majority of what they do. But because many of its patients are low-income patients, they satisfy the usual requirements for people visiting low-income clinics, and Planned Parenthood needs to be treated like any other medical facility and get its share. A related issue is a bill that did not pass in the Senate last year, and that's the Reproductive Parity Act. Passed the House, couldn't pass the Senate. You know who is in charge here. And so we are having in this year, how many years after Roe versus Wade? 40 years after Roe versus Wade, 41 now. We're going to have an argument about whether insurance companies that cover maternity have to have parity. If they cover maternity, the neonatal care and so forth, prematernal and postmaternal, postnatal, you get it. Then they also got to cover abortion. Sorry, that's equity here. We're not asking for special rights or any of that. We're asking for parity, equity. That's the name of the game. I'm in favor, you know that, but let's see if we can get some of my colleagues on board. That's the news from Lake Wobegon. Thanks. You take care.